Social History of England. Unit 1. Black Death. The Black Death refers to a series of bubonic plague episodes that plagued Europe from 1341 to 1351. Once a ship docked into England. The people on the harbour were surprised and shocked to see that everyone on board was dead, except for 2 sailors. These 2 sailors looked horrible. Their body was covered with black pustules. The ship was infested with rats. That was how they called the disease Black Death, because the skin of the infected people would become black. These rat-infested trade ships came from China and spread the contagion to Russia, Italy, France, and finally to England in 1348. Symptoms included fever, coughing blood, and pustules covered all over the body. As soon as the symptoms appeared, the infected were left away in the streets or dumped into the forest to die on their own. What did the people think at the time? Medieval priests were the only educated people. They taught the common folk that this was God's punishment for their sins. Churches shut their doors on the poor people. A group of people started beating themselves to regain salvation. These people were called as Flagellants. The streets were soon littered with corpses. These were simply burnt along with dying people. All those who were healthy and the others who called them as infected were also burnt along with the dying. No one escaped the Black Death. Plague doctors walked about the city during the time. These plague doctors were not real doctors. They were priests who wore a mask that resembled the beak of a bird. This mask was stuffed with herbs to protect the priest. They were unqualified. They were simply there to count the number of infected in a particular village and report the number to the authorities. The authorities were warriors and knights who would soon arrive to kill the infected. The infected were simply lined up and burnt in the middle of the street. The healthy, who were often in the bad books of the politicians, were also burnt up along with the infected. Plague doctors started misusing the advantages given to them and started burning up women in the name of witches. These plague doctors practiced bloodletting, or the cutting open of wounds and the letting away of blood. They thought that this would heal people, but indeed this increased the infection rate. The appearance of a plague doctor on the doorstep was considered an ill omen by all villagers. Nobody wanted to be looked on by a plague doctor. The epidemic wiped away 1/4 of all the population of England. There was no medicine to prevent it and no medicine to cure it. The economy fell to the ground. Whole cities were deserted. Villages were deserted. Homes of the infected were burnt. Salary came down. Wages were not paid to the poor peasants. Many laborers and farmers lost their work. Landlords simply increased the taxes of the poor people. Church priests increased their taxes also. All the cost went up, and more people died of starvation than of disease. People started walking here and there, wandering through the bushes and woods in search of food. Nothing could save them from the Black Death or the black economy. The Black Death came again in 1666. Episodes of plague began hitting Europe now and then. People never knew that it was caused by a bacterium named Yersinia pestis. They simply thought once again that God was punishing them for their sins. In 1666, it was called as the Great Plague. Whatever name you give to an epidemic, it's going to cause death and destruction. Will it happen again? Yes, there is nothing that could prevent an epidemic, as you would have observed quite recently. In the wake of today, what do you feel about the Black Death? Even today, with all the technology, science and advancement in medicine, we could do nothing to stop COVID-19. What would those poor people in 1348 have done? Are we prepared to handle such a disaster? Do we have enough resources? Is our economy strong? Or will it be 1348 all back again? Think about it, my dear students. Thank you for watching this.